Now, I'm going to show you a tweet from someone that I do like and I have no issues with whatsoever, but he made one of the most ridiculous tweets in a million fucking years. And the reason why I assume that he makes this tweet is because, one, he's never played against people that actually play the champion. So Neon, Molecule makes the tweet and says, Karthus bot is so fucking OP, only see it in the US, but is the pro barrier that they can dodge Qs, just really BS, the shit is so absurd. And then he says, too hard to draft, too hard to hit Qs versus tier 2 boots, and losing in a skirmish because you missed a bunch of Qs make you never want to play it again. Okay, so Malice did play in Cloud9 Academy last year, right? So obviously people could go and see Malice's Karthus in those games. Okay, Malice doesn't miss Qs. In addition to this, you have all of the high MMR Karthus players on Korea server playing versus the best players in the world on 8 ping. The Karthus players land the Qs, guys. They land the fucking Qs because, like, if you're really good at Karthus, it starts getting real scary, especially with when you factor in like Wall of Pain and all this other type of stuff, right? And then obviously Vigar XTTDs, and then Neon accuses him of OTP bias. So it's not actually OTP bias. Another thing that you can end up doing with Karthus Qs is you can actually, you can go in and you can actually test if the Karthus places his Q correctly with the radius on you, what is the movement speed that you would actually need to dodge the Q, assuming that Karthus is in range, and that you did not, like, if you didn't prediction move in response, or if you didn't prediction move anticipating Karthus' Q. You can do something like that. Now, at Cloud9, interestingly, this is just a story from, like, February 2022, at Cloud9, Max actually, I believe, had his brother and, like, an analyst or something end up running a simulation, or not simulation, they ended up concluding that if Syndra is in range to cast Q and the enemy champion is on her screen, if the Syndra player casts her Q correctly, it's undodgeable because of the radius of her Q and the spawn time. And the conclusion with that is that it's actually always on Syndra to hit Q. You actually can't dodge Syndra Q, in theory. It's actually on the Syndra to mess up. Now, this changes, I think, when it gets high enough movement speed, but that's just like an interesting thing, and we were evaluating this for like Syndra laning phase. Now, obviously, for like Karthus Q and stuff like that, there's a lot of other stuff going on, right? And Karthus has a lot of value with like Requiem and his E and the amount of area that he can control inside of team fights later. His passive very, very strong, and then his Q is not that difficult to hit. This is a total exaggeration. So you end up getting cope type things like this. Okay, we're in draft. You end up getting cope type things where, you know, it's like, oh, Ziggs can't land an ability, or Xerath can't land an ability, Vel'Koz can't land an ability, and it's just like, well, no, you just never have seen players really proficient at these champions. If this argument was actually true, you would never see a champion like Nidalee in competitive ever. You would never actually see Ezreal in competitive ever. You would never see any champions that actually have like really thin skill shots ever appear in competitive. In fact, we actually did see Xerath versus, you know, come out of Fnatic not too long ago. So it's a really, really cope thing. It's really cool that we have like Appa and Insanity that are trying to like push limits and stuff. But yeah. Okay. Karthus even beat Ziggs in bot. This isn't true. Ziggs is a really big problem for Karthus, so yeah, I mean, it's just not true. Ziggs theme answers Karthus. Karthus can obviously provide openings for some of the champions that are really good against Ziggs, because Karthus pairs with champions that are good against Ziggs, notably like the Camille and stuff, but that doesn't have anything to do with Karthus versus Ziggs in a vacuum. Okay.